In this video, I'll show you how to write a standard form hyperbola equation. The question reads, a hyperbola whose center is at the origin has a focus at 0 and -5, and a transverse axis 8 units long. Write the standard equation of the hyperbola and find the slope of the asymptotes. We are told that this hyperbola has a center at the origin, so let's highlight that. This is very important. And because it has a center at the origin, there won't be any changes to the y and to the x. So normally if it was not at the origin, you would write down y minus or plus a number, or x plus or minus a number. Also, we're told that there is a focus at 0 and -5. Due to the nature of hyperbolas, they have two foci. So if they have one focus at 0 and -5, they have to have another one at 0 and +5. Also from the focus, we can tell that this hyperbola will open up and down as opposed to left and right. This means that the transverse axis is vertical as opposed to being horizontal. So the line of symmetry is upwards. Just to visualize what I'm telling you, let's pretend that we had an XY plot, and we have one focus that is at 0 and 5, and another one at 0 and -5. The center is right here at 0 and 0, and the transverse axis, which is 8 units long, would be the distance from vertex to vertex. So if this is the focus, focus 1 and focus 2, the vertex will be somewhere underneath this focus and somewhere above this one, and it would open up and down. The transverse axis would be the distance from this vertex to this vertex, and that would be 8 units long. From the transverse axis, we can actually find out what our A value is. Our A value is the measure from the center to the vertex, that's your A, and C is the measure from the center to the focus. So C would be the distance from here to here, and in our case it's 5. So let's write that down. A is equal to 8 divided by 2, which is 4, and C is equal to ±5. And we can also write down ±4 as our A. Since this hyperbola is opening up and down, you will have to use this version of the formula. And the reason why we use this version as opposed to the other version where y is negative is because if y were the negative variable, then the graph would open to the left and to the right. It is always the negative variable that determines whether it opens up, down, left, or right. So since x is the negative one, it's going to open up and down. Keep that in mind. It's very important when it comes to constructing standard equations of a hyperbola. To find out our b, because remember we need an a and a b, we need to use the formula c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, and rearrange for b. And yes, this is the Pythagorean theorem. To rearrange for b, we end up with b squared is equal to c squared minus a squared. And just to give you an idea of what the b represents, let's pretend that we had two lines, one extending from here to there, and this will serve as our asymptote, and another extending from here to here. And you have to try to visualize that these two lines are passing through 0 and 0. I know this is not the perfect representation, but try to imagine it. These would represent the asymptotes. So your b would be the distance from here to this vertex to these two slopes. Your a would be the distance from here to here, and drawing a square to represent what we found. Let's go ahead and find b. Substituting the values that we know already, our c is 5 squared minus 4 squared, and we're going to square root that, where we end up with 25 minus 16. That is equal to 9, and the square root of that is ±3. Now we can start writing our equation. We have y squared over the a term, which is 4, but of course, if you look at this formula, it's a to the power of 2, so that's 16 minus x squared over our b term, which happens to be 3, and we have to square the b, becomes 9, is equal to 1. The last step is to find the slope. Now that we've written our equation, to find the slope, we'll use this formula, where I'll represent it with the letter m. M is equal to plus minus a, which is 4, and b, which is 3, This line right here will represent m is equal to positive 4 over 3 because it's going up to the right, positive 4 over 3. And since this line is going downwards, we'll have the slope m is equal to negative 4 over 3. And so there you have it. That is how to write a standard form hyperbola equation.